What is up, guys? So for a little over 2 months now, I've been conducting an Arrowverse tournament of 64 different villains throughout the Arrowverse's shows, like I did with 64 different heroes, and like I did with that tournament, the finale as well as the third place winner, I kept the results secret of the poll so that I can reveal them in a video, and obviously this is that video. So the third place poll is between Slade Wilson aka Deathstroke and Floyd Lawton aka Deadshot, while the first place poll is between Arrowverse aka the Reverse Flash, and Hunter Zolomon aka Zoom. So in this video, I'll be revealing the winner of the third place poll and the first place poll, and also go over a couple top 5, like top 5 closest polls, top 5 biggest sweeps in the polls, as well as the top 5 most surprising victories. So with that in mind, let's get right into the reveal of who won. Now, unlike in the Heroes tournament, the final 4 were not really close to each other. Both of the polls kind of won by a lot, especially the third place poll between Slade Wilson aka Deathstroke and Floyd Lawton aka Deadshot. Now, Deadshot only got into the final 4 by sheer luck, never really going up against any real crazy villains. I definitely think there are some villains who deserve to be in here more than Deadshot. Don't get me wrong, I do like Deadshot, but not as much as villains like Prometheus especially, or Merlin, or even Savitar, who deserves to be in the top 4 a lot more than Deadshot did. However, he never really went up against anybody too serious, so he managed to get to the top 4 and go up against Deathstroke, but this is definitely a huge mismatch. Slade Wilson aka Deathstroke obviously won the third place poll with 91% of the vote, making Deathstroke third place and Deadshot fourth. Moving on to the first place poll, which is a lot closer than the third place poll, but nowhere near as close as the first place poll in the Heroes tournament, as Arrowverse aka the Reverse Flash just completely swept through the entirety of the tournament, going up against some heavy hitters like Lex Luthor, Dark Arrow, and Deathstroke. And even against Deathstroke, he didn't really have much of a fight, as the Reverse Flash had over 75% of the vote in that poll. And because of all those things, Reverse Flash, it seems like, is by far the most popular villain in the Arrowverse, as he beat Zoom with 78% after just sweeping through the entirety of the tournament. While Zoom had some difficulties here or there, like against Prometheus, it was pretty close, where Zoom won by less than 70% of the vote. Reverse Flash just swept through the entire thing, and he won the entirety of the tournament, and beating Zoom with 78% of the vote. So the winner is the Reverse Flash, second place is Zoom, third place is Deathstroke, and fourth place is Deadshot. And again, Deadshot only really made it to the tournament at all because of the tournament style and sheer luck of who he went up against, and I do not think he deserves to be in the top 4, but this is what the top 4 ended up being. So now that we know the top 4 villains of this tournament, let's go over some top 5s, starting with the top 5 closest polls. And this tournament was definitely not nearly as close. For some reason, there weren't as many really close polls, or at least the numbers never really got that low. In the Heroes tournament, it got up until 55%, where the winner got 55%. This one never really got that close. Number 5 are the polls that the winner won with 74% of the vote, like Anarchy beating Caden James in round 1, and the Reverse Flash beating Deathstroke in round 5. Number 4 are polls that the winner won with 73% of the vote, and that is a single poll in round 1 when Nora Dark beat Cicada, and the Orland Dwyer version of Cicada, not the second version of Cicada, which is a little surprising because Cicada had a much bigger role in their show than Nora Dark. Also, The Flash is typically more popular than Legends of Tomorrow, and it's by far the most popular show in all of these polls, hence the fact that the final 2 were the Reverse Flash and Zoom in this tournament, but Nora Dark still managed to defeat Cicada in this round. Number 3 are the polls that the winner won with 69% of the votes, while the winner had 31%. I don't know why, maybe it's because of the number and how it's like a meme, but for some reason, people made it so that the winner won with 69% of the vote more than a couple times, where in round 1, China White beat Neuron with 69% of the vote. In round 2, the Red Daughter beat the Rival. In round 3, the Thinker beat Killer Frost from Earth 2. In round 3, Bronze Tiger lost to Ricardo Diaz, all with 69% of the vote, and by far the most important poll that the winner won with 69% of the vote was in round 4 when Prometheus lost to Zoom, which was gotta be the most crazy upset of the entire tournament. I honestly think Prometheus deserved to win that one, and going off the poll, he probably should have made it to the top 2. That would have been more interesting. Prometheus versus Reverse Flash, so it's Arrow versus the Flash, just like in the original Heroes tournament, but it ended up being Zoom beating the Prometheus, as like I said, the Flash is a more popular show in these tournaments, especially with the villains. It wasn't really as much of the case with the heroes, but for some reason the villains just kind of swept the tournament on the Flash's side, and it wasn't really the case on the hero side. Anyway, Zoom beat Prometheus, and those are all the polls where the winner won with 69% of the vote, which is all the polls that were the third closest polls of the tournament. Number 2 is a poll where the winner won with 65% of the vote. In round 1, one of the more significant polls was when two kind of popular main villains, went up against each other, and one of them was eliminated a little bit too early in the tournament just because they went up against the other character. Savitar lost to Malcolm Merlin, where Malcolm Merlin got 65% of the vote and Savitar got 35%, as Savitar was knocked out of the tournament in just the first round, and that was the second closest poll in the entirety of the tournament, and that was only in the first round. And the number 1 closest poll in the tournament was when the winner won with 60% of the vote between Killer Frost of Earth 2 and Konstantin Kovar. Killer Frost managed to take the win, while Konstantin Kovar, I remember, was in the lead for a while. After a while, Killer Frost started to gain more and more votes, and then she ended up winning with 60% of the vote, while Konstantin Kovar got 40%. This was the closest poll in the tournament, and it's not as close as the closest poll in the Heroes tournament, where the winner won with 55% of the vote, but it is still fairly close, as I did think that Konstantin Kovar already won, but then Killer Frost managed to get just a little bit of votes, just enough to beat him in the end, and that was the closest poll in the tournament. Moving on to the 5 biggest sweeps of the tournament, and I gotta say the sweeps of this tournament were definitely less close than the sweeps of the Heroes tournament, as there was a poll or two that got less close than any poll in the entirety of the Heroes tournament, starting with number 5, where the winner won with 94% of the vote, where Zoom beat Gorilla Grodd in round 2. Next up, at number 4, are the polls where the winner won with 95% of the vote, where Dark Arrow of Earth X lost to the Reverse Flash in round 3. Number 3 are the polls where the winner won with 96% of the vote, while the loser got 4. This one actually has a couple of them, starting with in round 1, when the Reverse Flash beat Overgirl. Also in round 1, Lex Luthor beat Rhea, and a third one in round 1 was when Talia al Ghul beat Indigo, all with 96% of the vote. Moving on to round 2, when the Reverse Flash beat Lex Luthor with 96% of the vote, even though Lex Luthor definitely is, I think, a very good villain. For some reason, he just didn't stand a chance at all against the Reverse Flash. And in round 3, the Red Daughter lost to Zoom, where the Red Daughter only got 4% of the vote and Zoom got 96%. Number 2 are the polls where the winner got 97% of the vote and the loser got 3. Somehow, someway, there were 2 polls where the winner got 97% of the vote, and both of those polls were with the same villain. In round 1, Astra lost to Deadshot, where Astra got 3% and Deadshot got 97%, and in the next round, the Count lost to Deadshot, where the Count got 3 and Deadshot got 97% of the vote. While Deadshot, I don't think deserved to be in the top 4, just the fact that he had 2 of the closest polls in the tournament back-to-back rounds is part of the reason why he managed to make it to the top 4, mostly because he went up against villains like Astra and the Count, who, while the Count is pretty good, he obviously was no match for Deadshot, and obviously you don't really have to say the same thing for Astra because that is obvious. And a number that the Heroes tournament never got to, where the poll ended where the winner got 98% of the vote and the loser only got 2, starting with in round 1, where Selena, a villain on Supergirl, got annihilated by Slade Wilson, and Slade Wilson got 98% of the vote. Then a couple of rounds later in round 4, Weather Wizard, aka Mark Martin, who actually got pretty far in the tournament and was doing very, very well, got annihilated again by the Reverse Flash, who managed to win with 98% of the vote, which is significant because that means that the only 2 rounds where the Reverse Flash did not sweep completely and managed to make it to the top 5 were the rounds he went up against Deathstroke and Zoom in rounds 5 and 6, while rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4, as you already saw, were all in this top 5, which it's insane how much Reverse Flash just swept the tournament. But these 2 polls, Deathstroke versus Selena in round 1, and Wither Wizard versus Reverse Flash in round 2, were not only the 2 biggest sweeps of this tournament, but were the 2 biggest sweeps of all 12 rounds of the Hero and Villain tournaments in this last couple months that I've been doing them. So the final top 5 I'm going to go over are the top 5 most surprising victories, where I thought one villain was going to win, but in the end the other villain managed to take the victory. Number 5 is in round 4, when Prometheus was knocked out of the tournament way too early. This is my favorite main villain out of every season. I wouldn't say my favorite villain, but in terms of just one season, I think our Season 5 had the best main villain, and he lost in round 4 to Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom. Well, Zoom is a great villain who definitely managed or deserved to make it into the top 4. I genuinely thought that Prometheus would win. I was a little scared that Zoom would, and he did end up doing it, but I just think it's a travesty that Prometheus didn't make it into the top 4 and not even into the finale. I don't think he should have won. I think Reverse Flash definitely deserved the victory, but I think he should have made it into the finale, and he didn't even make it into the semifinal. So yeah, Zoom beating Prometheus was pretty surprising. Number 4 comes from round 1, where the 2 Edwards went up against each other. Edward Claris, aka the rival, against Number 4 comes from round 1, where the 2 Edwards went up against each other. Edward Claris, aka the rival, went up against Edward Fires, and Edward Claris won. That was surprising because the rival, while he is a good villain, maybe not good, maybe just an okay villain with a fairly good costume, Edward Fires was a great villain. He was the main villain of the Season 1 flashbacks, which was the best season of the flashbacks, and he was a great villain of that season, so it was a little bit more than surprising to me that the rival, who's not even a beloved villain on The Flash, managed to defeat Edward Fires. Number 3 comes from round 3, where Deadshot beat Damien Dark. Now, Deadshot is definitely a great villain. The fact that he made it into the top 4 was crazy, but he definitely deserved to make it fairly far on the tournament, but I thought Damien Dark would definitely beat him. As well, Damien Dark was definitely not a good villain in Season 4. He managed to redeem himself quite a lot in the first 3 seasons of Legends of Tomorrow, especially in Season 3, becoming a very good character, and I thought he was more popular than Deadshot. I personally might have voted for Deadshot. I don't know. I mean, I didn't really have a say in the vote, but the fact that Deadshot won in this poll was definitely a little bit more than surprising, as I expected Damien Dark to win that actual poll. Number 2 comes from round 1, when Dark Arrow won against Brother Blood, and Number 2 comes from round 1, when Oliver Queen of Earth X, also known as Dark Arrow, who was the main villain of Crisis on Earth X, defeated Sebastian Blood, aka Brother Blood, the secondary main villain of Arrow Season 2, which was pretty surprising, as while Dark Arrow was a pretty good villain, Brother Blood was so much better. Brother Blood was a great secondary main villain of Arrow Season 2. Dark Arrow was a good main villain of Crisis on Earth X, but not great or anything, so maybe it's because people saw Oliver Queen, but didn't see Dark Arrow, and maybe didn't know this was a villains tournament, so they voted for Oliver, and maybe that's why, maybe because of that, he got enough votes to be Brother Blood. But I am very surprised, I was very surprised when Brother Blood was knocked out of the tournament in just the first round by the Dark Arrow. And number 1 is another poll that comes from round 1. In the first round, the Earth 2 version of Killer Frost went up against Rain, the main villain of Supergirl Season 3. Now, The Flash, like I've said, is a lot more popular, especially in these polls, than Supergirl, and also it's a possibility that people didn't know or didn't realize that Killer Frost was meaning the Earth 2 version, who appeared like 3 times in Season 2, not the main Killer Frost from Earth 1, who is a very popular character, definitely more popular than Rain, and a member of Team Flash. Because the fact that Killer Frost beat Rain was a lot more than a little bit surprising, as Rain was a pretty great main villain of Supergirl Season 3, and Killer Frost was a good villain, but she only appeared in 3 episodes, and she was not nearly as good as Rain. So when Killer Frost ended up beating Rain, I think it may be because people thought it was the Earth 1 version of Killer Frost who wasn't in this tournament, because she's now more of a hero than a villain, and was in the Hero Tournament, but it was actually the Earth 2 version who just did not deserve to beat Rain at all, and I think Rain deserved to, because of this poll, move on to the second round at least. So anyway, that is the 3 top 5s of the tournament, as well as the reveal of the winner. Who do you think should have won the tournament? And also, I don't really have any ideas for what tournament to do next, so let me know in the comments down below what your ideas would be and what do you think I should do. And as always, if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.